So, Dr. Abe, it's so lovely to see you again, and thank you so much for agreeing to come on the Handshake, our new podcast. And by way of introduction, I know we had a chat before on asking the hard questions, but I'll just give our audience a little flavour of who it is I'm speaking to when I'm speaking with Dr. Abraham Khoureis. Your LinkedIn leadership top voice, known for your innovation and compassionate leadership, a creator of both the compassionate leadership model pyramid and disability higher education learning model, and your interest in disabled students in their achieving their degrees and moving on into the workplace is you have a load of work on that area. You serve as adjunct professor, and you hold the doctorate in philosophy and business administration. Your emphasis on management, and you outside of academia, your Screen Actor Guild, franchised Hollywood agent, show host, author, and a small business owner. And you're the organizer and moderator of the virtual Global Thought Leader Symposium. Did I get you right? Would you like to add anything?
It's good to see you again. It's good to see you again.
Lovely.
I enjoyed our last talk all the time. Interaction are lovely, mutually respectful.
Yes.
And I enjoyed talking to you. So it's my congratulations on this new venture. Handshake is a good name to welcome people into any setting.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to your questions.
Yeah, I thought of you immediately because of the resonance with you. The last chat we had, you came across as somebody who's so compassionate, empathetic, and you're right in there with your love of people and people advancing people. And I just thought, here, I've got to get you back on.
So I'm glad I came back.
Thank you. So for me, the handshake represents trust and connection and mutual respect, and the values that resonate both with leadership and inclusivity. And the resonance actually permeates your line of thought and research as well, with the compassionate leadership model, etc. And this notion of living in the VUCA world, and that is now becoming enveloped with AI. I think both your line of research and my thought processing was never more important in terms of holding on to that handshake. So the leadership lessons from your diverse roles, you have diverse roles as professor, agent, mentor, advocate. What key leadership lessons have emerged about fostering connection, trust, and understanding in relationships from all of these different roles and your experience and the expertise you have gathered?
Really empathy and compassion. They supersedes anything else, because to build connection, when we talk about handshake, we talk about, it's not just a handshake, it's a welcoming thing. It's your handshaking. I mean, the term is handshake, but it has more meaning than just to welcome someone and to tell them, welcome to my podcast, welcome. What you're doing is you're building a trust.
Yes.
A trust between your audience, you as a host, with the guests, to say, okay, what is the message of this individual that can bring us beyond the handshake? The leadership really lessons would be empathy, how to be empathetic. I've always defined empathy is to feel others, to be in their shoes, to kind of understand their situations. Then we came with the compassionate leadership model, is where you actually perform the act. You become more compassionate based on the empathy. So empathy by itself is not enough. So a lesson learned, you can be an empathetic leader, trustworthy, with connections, with everything else. But if you don't act on this empathy, you may not achieve your goal of being of service to others and uplifting them. You need to be compassionate, and the compassionate is the action beyond the empathy. That's what the primary lesson I can say I learned through all these years is to act on it, to act on your empathy.
So isn't it so important to get the right person in the leadership role? The person who
Absolutely.
is self-aware, open to learning and learning across the lifespan.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
That's why when we put the model together, the model, as we will talk about later, possibly that the journey of the leader. Now we added compassionate leader to this individual with the journey, but this individual, he, she, they can be in any position, any environment, in any settings.
Mhm.
So leadership, the mantra is leadership sets the tone. Leadership set the tone. So
Sure.
if you are working for someone who is compassionate and empathetic and self-aware and mindful, you will have the same, you will have the environment that is ideal to perform the services of the compassionate leadership. But if you're working for a leader that is uncompassionate, narcissist, someone who
Mhm.
loves himself or herself and care less for others, you
Mhm.
may, actually, based on our research, 70% of the people of general society, regardless faith, norms, settings, country, societies, 70% of people will follow the leader.
Of course.
So the leader really sets the tone. It's important to have him in the right position, in the right time, at the right space. With the right leader, societies flourish because these individuals will work. With the wrong leaders, societies will have a hard time in, as we experience today, regardless of what the setting is and what geographical areas. We have the wrong leaders in the wrong places. That's why we see the tragedies that is happening now. So yes, to answer your questions, leaders set the tone, and then um, they must be in the right place.
And if you think in terms of emotional intelligence and Goleman's model and the emphasis on self-awareness, surely
Good.
self-awareness is the underlying, isn't it?
One of them,
Yes.
self-awareness, is of course. Now, the question was having the right leader in the right place. Yes, but ask me what are the characteristics of the right leader. Let's say we talk about a compassionate leader. Who is they? Who are these people?
Mhm.
What are they? First thing, they have to be mindful with self-awareness. Now, does emotional intelligence connect to it? Yes. Mindfulness, you have to be. Now, emotional intelligence is how to manage your emotions and the emotions of others. Basically, you have control, self-control, communication, active communications, and so on and so forth. So you have a level of emotional intelligence so you can communicate with others.
Mhm.
But mindfulness, this is another part of it. It's based on mindfulness is you're aware of the environment settings you're in. You're
Yes.
aware of the employees, you're aware of the leadership, you're aware of the customer, you're aware of the consumer and their needs and desires and the product you can create for them. You're aware of the employees of having a hard time or having a good time, meaning they're satisfied versus unsatisfied. This awareness, if you have it and you work on it properly, will make you a leader that on the path of being a compassionate, because the first thing is the understanding. You understand what the environment is and how to handle it by meeting motivation, meeting the needs of these individuals. When you understand what they lack, you provide them with what they need. Based on these needs, most people they'll be motivated. Because the 70% we discovered, those people, they will go with the leader because they care for their livelihood.
Sure.
Although they're principled, in general, people are good people in general. But the leader will set the tone of how they become good or they are silent, like we have now, because everybody's afraid to write, everybody afraid to voice their concern, everybody, their livelihood.
Of course.
And then you lose that, the livelihood you have. Then you wouldn't say nothing. Then you become empathetic versus compassionate. See,
Sure.
because you have the feeling, but you never really acted on it.
And the whole idea, though, of I often think many organizations are ruled by fear. The fear of speaking out, the fear of making, even for the leader, the fear of stepping out, of stepping outside the box, of actually having the courage to stand over your convictions, and they may be different to what a mainframe society wants to hear, or
But
governance.
that's because they don't have what we learn to call a psychological safety.
Yes.
Their safety is in jeopardy. Safety, not necessarily physical. Could be they would lose their job. You say something against not necessarily your leader or your organization. You say something about someone outside of that organization. You would think of the image of the organization and they would let you go because you're affecting the demographics you're serving. Any word you say, there is no convictions of the leaders to say, we support you. As long as you're on the right path, we're going to take care of you. Even we're going to fight the challenges and the lobby of this or that, the lawsuits or government interference here and there. But most leaders, although they set the tone, the unfortunate thing within a culture, most leaders, they play in the rules of the status quo.
Isn't that an endangerment really to democracy in a sense as well?
Of course.
Yeah.
It's of course, because the whole premise of democracy is free. Let's say an example, you have it and we have it, expression, the freedom of expression. This is part of the articles of the constitutions. Who's able to speak anything? When you don't give them the chance to speak their minds, you're creating fear. And when you have fear, this is not what democracy is all about. And the same thing, we can take it on a minute level within the organization. If an organization disallow individuals to give their honest opinions and being transparent, that's going to cause them to stop and be silent, but that's going to cause them, they may not disagree because they want to become part of the 70%, but they would lose the interest of sharing feedback.
They'll disengage, yeah.
Disengage. Absolutely. They will be disengaged for sure. So why? Because they just do their job and they go home. Or they probably go to a party and they smile, but they don't mean it. There is no sincerity in the process. This is scary. It's scary for democracy, it's scary for the environment, it's scary for the performance, because that's when you have issues, cognitive issues, although they're not necessarily leading to disability or so, but you are not able to perform well. The fear that regardless if it's physical or mental will affect your performance and the organization.
And leads to what do they call psychopresenteeism? You're just at your work.
It leads to paralysis. It leads you to paralysis that you are not able to express what you believe in. You probably write it in a hidden place. You write it and then you delete it or hide it and save it, or you can't express it. That's very dangerous. What's going to happen to the impact of such thing? The impact within the organization.
I actually believe it has become very much a prominent feature in my experience in the last 5 years.
No, it's the norm now. If you speak your mind, you're out of a job. If you speak your mind, you're threatened. If you speak your mind, and although what you're speaking is not against the overall premise of whether democracy or the organization's values and mission statement and whatever you call it, is even you speaking within, you are challenged not to speak. They silenced you.
There's a new trend emerging where governments are seeking maybe to bring in hate speech laws and curtail what people can say. And that will actually accentuate this situation even more, won't it?
Well, it's going to take you to an autocratic leadership. I mean, can you say anything within like kingdom, or if they're really practicing their authorities? Can you say anything except to praise to this institution and admiring the good thing or bad thing they're doing? That's what's going to lead to. If you live in a democratic society, you have the right to have freedom of expression. This is part of the Constitution. Part of what we say this individual has to become or can become, but you're depriving them of this tribe.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's
So
very much in vogue, I think, across the world at the moment.
it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Everywhere,
And
isn't
then
it?
you become an autocratic, although you're still democratic society by name, but the practice is not accurate. So you
I
cannot say,
I love the pyramid that you have come up with. Moving from I to we. So you
yes,
start at the baseline of self-compassion, and then
yes,
that notion of kinship. Your next of kin being family, spouse, children, siblings, significant others, and friends. Moving
yes,
then to the local environment,
yes.
on to organization, community, society. You know,
And the self,
they,
yes,
they say that schools are a microcosm of the society, the community they serve. I'm sure the same can be true of ordinary organizations, workplaces.
absolutely. Now, we call that the compassionate leadership pyramid for your audience, for your viewers.
Mhm.
The compassionate leadership model in theory, it's based on research. That's why we back it by uh, research. And in the book, the compassionate leadership model in pyramid, I talk about all the details. The
Mhm.
pyramid itself has 7 levels.
That's right.
They're not in any particular orders. You can be self-compassionate on the upper end or in the middle. But the way we
Yes.
chose it, with the way we chose it to be, compassionate leadership is the first level. Um, we say in the compassionate leadership, you care for self in the order to be able to help others. If you're not
Yes.
strong, how can you help the weak? If you're
It's the
not rich,
foundation. Yeah.
yeah, if you're not rich, how can you help the poor? If you're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
educated, how can you help the uneducated? So you start with self, with the intention not to be selfless or selfish, intention to become selfless,
Yes.
intention to become able and powerful and mighty for one
Mhm.
purpose, to help the society you're in, the organization you're in, the environment, the
So
settings.
this sort of
So
servant leadership idea.
the yes, build on. So self-compassion, leaders must first care for themselves to effectively lead others.
Sure.
How you effectively is through everything needed. Um, Next of kin, that's the second level. Next of kin or our own tribe, like
Sure.
that's your own tribe. So first you build yourself, you become aware of the environment, you're mindful, self-awareness and mindful for any level of these levels. For any component category, you have to be self-aware and mindful. We define self-awareness, we define intelligence, emotional intelligence, and we talked about what mindfulness is. The next of kin is after you become able, you jump to the next of kin, to your spouse, brothers, siblings, sisters, aunts, neighbors.
Mhm.
Those are the tribe that they may lift you up as you lift them up. Because
Sure.
when you go to them, you're not going to say, I am it and help me and carry me and lift me up. No, you're also lifting them up. You're guiding them through the process. So
Right direction.
as they lift themselves up and they become the educated, the rich, the improved individuals,
Mhm.
then they help you also because they believe in the message. You become a reformer on a local level.
Very good.
And then we go to the local environment. We're saying that this is the third level. We're saying leaders engage with the support of their local environment, creating inclusive and nurturing spaces for all.
Excellent.
You go to grocery stores, you help the community, you go to local houses of worship, you donate money. It doesn't matter what it is, which one. I mean, each they go to their own, but the point is you help in the environment. You find if there are clinics or not, hospitals or not, business community, you involve yourself with the community. You become a positive, important citizen of that local community. And then we go to the organization. Here, the compassionate leaders, they prioritize employees' well-being, consumers, leaders, and of course, the employees. We're
Mhm.
saying you really have to care for all. If you're a leader, you're in that organization, you have to think of the employees as you care for the consumer and customers. If you're the employee, you have to care for the leadership, you have to care for the shareholders. Before, in the old days, maximizing the profit share of the profit of the shareholders only. They make all the money, you may have a salary, you may, thrive or so on a large salary, but the point is, the people that were benefiting the most are the shareholders. With this model, you want to make them rich because that's the intention, is to make everybody rich. You want to create a product that the consumer has values. This value, when they buy it, they'll thank you for creating such a product. So you think of all of the leadership. This is what's involved in the organization: leadership, shareholders, leadership, consumers, customers, employees. Not in any particular order. And then we have the community. That's the fifth level. Leaders extend their influence by addressing shared challenges in their broader community. Here you try to find out what is this community needing. And you create events, you create environments where the community's well-being is taken into consideration. What does this community need? Do we have poverty? Do we have homelessness? Do we have sickness? What do we have? What is this community? Why it's not thriving enough? What caused the school, the children not to perform accordingly? This is where the compassionate leadership in this level, they will think of the environment, all of its components and elements. And then we go to the sixth level, is the society. Compassionate leaders advocate for a systemic change to promote justice and equality. We talked about DEA, we talk about all of the things that right to vote, right to have equal share of payment of salaries and compensations, electing leaders that are worthy of being in that position, voting, and everything that society needs to find. Good economy. You think of everything, and then in every position you have the right people. This is the model. If we have a person that believes in being mindful and self-aware and caring for, empathetic and compassionate, and you put them in any position, regardless of title, they'll perform accordingly with their skills and expertise. Excellent. Yeah. And the last one is serving others. Here is you serve other without expecting anything in return. It's the highest form of leadership. It encompasses everything: servant leadership, transformational leadership, servant leadership, mentioned that, charismatic leadership, transformational leadership. Compassionate leadership is the top. It's the top of them all. Why? Because leading with all plus action. You're actually making it happen. Where leaders act purely to help others without seeking recognition or reward. When you become on that level, your level is where you care for the people. Sure. Is you're not doing it for yourself. All the other levels, sadly, we don't have the selfless leader.
Yes, right.
Because we always care for, because we're still improving. When I do in the self-compassion education, this is for me. But in the highest level, I achieved everything. But I caution you, and I caution your leaders and listeners, when we reach the highest level, because of generation of other leadership, is occupied by people who are not compassionate. But that position we are seeking to occupy is now very much manipulated and occupied by people who are not compassionate and will not like to care for others. They care for themselves. They care for their country, for their religion, for this, for that, not for the humanity at large. So even within a scope, I want to say something very quickly. So as you go up that pyramid and you reach the top level, you're gonna face these people who are gonna put you in a position to defend yourself and challenge you and hurt you economically and otherwise. So make sure that as you go up, in any level, you may be challenged because not everybody believing as you believe. Some people, you're changing the status quo in any environment. They're not going to accept that. Nobody wants to change the status quo and say, why we're having a good life. Why would we bring these people in, regardless of race, color, religion, or anything else? I'm not going to allow this to happen. You see, because you don't think with empathy, that you put yourself in their position. So in the highest level, I always gave Moses as an example because I love Moses in history when he challenged the Pharaoh. So the reason I thought of the idea of Moses and Pharaoh, when I was putting the idea of the top pyramid, how we can formulate it and what are the characteristics, I read through history that Pharaoh, one of the pyramids he built, not necessarily this one of the pharaohs he built, of the pyramids he built, was for one purpose, is to see the God of Moses.
Right.
He wanted to challenge this God. He wanted to go to the peak. I said to myself, if Pharaoh was on the peak, Pharaoh is the mightiest, ruthless leader. So if he's at the peak, it means this peak is occupied by people like Pharaoh. They don't have to call them Pharaoh, but we can call them other names. So my understanding and caution to others, you're going to be a good leader if you do compassionate leadership, because with compassion comes collaboration, comes trust, comes connection, comes the handshake that people will shake it without any challenges, and they believe in your message. Comes the diversity, comes the AI without even enforcing the AI. The people, because you just believe in it. Like, naturally, it comes natural to you. All that comes, all these benefits of compassionate leadership comes out of that. Comes out of being compassionate, transparent, mindful, and self-aware.
So it carries a great responsibility, doesn't it, to be a compassionate leader?
Absolutely. Good character. How do you define good character? By serving others and not getting anything in return. Even if you get something in return, you serve them with dignity and pride that I'm going to be of service to you. I want to uplift you. I have a 5 or 6 words I always use in any posting I have: to enlighten, to inform, to inspire, to uplift.
Sure. My
words, I wanted those to happen. Educate, share, inform. I use them every now and then. So a leader in any environment, he must not think of these workers as someone that will benefit only the organization and make him get the bonus he needs. He should think of the organization's overall objectives, but helping these individuals. If they are, let's say, now, Bachelor of Science possibly is a norm, everybody have it. But let's say, I know a specific society, some society, they don't even have education. But let's say you have only employees with bachelor only. This leader is going to come and say, let's send you to a master. Or I'm going to put a program in our organization where if you go to a master, it's free. Excuse me a second. It's free, So you put a program like this and you encourage them to improve themselves, and you improve yourself, because in self-compassionate, you became that high individual with good education.
We're living in an age now where there's a lot of verbiage used like EDI, equity, equality, diversity, inclusion.
Inclusion, yes.
How much of it within organizations, certain organizations and certain stratas of society, how much of a tick box exercise is that? Is there a sincerity around enacting it?
Actually, you use the beautiful word, which is sincerity. Because when you challenge the status quo and you say we need to have more women in this male-dominated society, organization, setting, group, you're challenging a status quo that's been for generations. Race, black, white, middle, whatever's the race. Gender, right? We talk about gender, talk about other things. poor versus who doesn't have.
Mhm.
You try to bring them in. You use sincerity. Most early on, when this became the trend, we say, "Oh, with diversity, we have diversity." You kind of somebody say, "Oh, we advocate for diversity in our programs," and but then what they do, they're not changing the status quo totally. They just put a face of that specific community they're trying to target
Mhm.
in that position. So when the community sees someone a specific category, they will say, "Wow, this institution is they care for us," and their use of the words diversity is true and accurate because they have somebody employed there. You just put a face to the actual thing, but the background
It's
the
not. Yeah.
is not, and it's already proven. But generally, I don't believe. I came up with this conclusion later, and I wrote about it on my website. I don't believe DEI should be advocated for, meaning in a reason in a society that says it's a democratic society, all men are created equal, right? Men, meaning man and woman, and also a member of society. There is no reason to have a privilege for a white person or a black person or a Christian or Jewish. There's no reason for all of this because the society, by default, has determined that all men are created equal.
Mhm. Mhm.
All people are equal in front of the law,
So
before the law.
DEI should be a given. It should be a given.
Should be a given. Should
Yes.
be a given.
Mm.
And we go further. I advocate for the disabled in any possible way I can.
Yes.
The law is the only thing can protect them because most people and employers or schools, they really don't care much about this community.
Mhm.
So in addition to what we can advocate for, I believe the law should be implemented, like when we have reasonable accommodation, if we can segue to that. Reasonable accommodation is an employer or an institution will give an individual with disability that is hardship enough to affect their livelihood.
Mhm.
They can't walk well, they need a wheelchair. So that reasonable accommodation is where you can provide reasonably uh, designed setting
And yes, adjust the setting. Yes.
to adjust the setting
To accommodate
to
them.
allow them
Yes.
to access this environment. So they have equal access with people who are not disabled, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
In my book, reasonable accommodation beyond, I seek now, I don't want the law only. I seek to empower reasonable accommodation to give it a push where the employer would put disability rights and advocacy as part of their curriculum, as part, whether it's a school or part of their programs.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when they build their settings, when you do a structured design for the organization, we need 25 desks. That's assuming these are the people you're going to bring in.
Mhm.
I want to see this and this desks are for disabled individuals. When you have desks for disabled individuals, technically you're saying we're gonna hire people with disability.
Sure.
It's not like we're gonna build this 25 desks and then when they come you build it. No, this is meant for them. The mindset is meant to help these individuals to be
Mhm.
employed. The mindset in the learning institution is to have a disability services that care for these individuals and they know how to help them
Mhm.
without waiting for even encouraged to have it. Because if you encourage to have disabled people, that's mean the society is civilized.
Mhm.
So the society has reached a level that is really caring for its weak people. When we say weak, it doesn't mean they're weak in abilities, meaning
Yes.
limitation.
Limitations.
Limitation. Yeah,
Absolutely.
these
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
are limitations. You just enhance the environment by saying, we're gonna give you a job so you can be part of society. You feel valued. You feel your contribution is important to us, regardless of our setting.
Mhm.
And
And
also,
do you find that you're making inroads with that, in your work at the university and in bridging that gap, then getting these graduates into the workplace? Are you actually making a difference?
well, the difference you see when they graduate, which we feel happy,
Sure.
because most people, they go to the school, I mean, higher education program, master, back, PhD.
Mm-hmm.
Some they don't finish. That's the challenges. If you go to the statistics, they say we have disabled people. I tell them how many people graduated. Tell me how many graduated of these individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would see the measurement of success. Did your
Sure.
work well? So now, as we see it slowly but surely, hopefully it will lead to. The thought came to me as I'm talking to you. Is when we employ disabled individuals, something comes across that we may take it for granted, which is resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
Disabled individuals have a probably God-given or experience-based, I have no idea, but they are compensated by being resilient.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's there is nobody can teach you that except to see a disabled individual taking the extra step. So if someone who is not disabled and see this individual that has no legs and just jumping and winning an award or a race,
Mm-hmm.
you are motivated. They motivate you.
Yes.
So if you don't have a disabled individual on board, get a disabled individual. Just let the experience be rich, humanly rich.
A lot of companies in Ireland, we have a law where you would have to maybe show that you have employed a certain percentage of a neurodiverse or disabled people.
That's a quota you have by law.
Yeah, that there's
Oh,
certain,
nice.
let's say that certain positions would be left for them, but it's the delineation then between actually complying with that and it just being tokenism and actually embracing those people in the workplace. That's, I think, lies in the hand of the compassionate leader, doesn't it?
So it's only recommendation, or it's the law in Ireland?
It's a recommendation.
Recommendation.
Yeah. And some companies abide by it, maybe would have one or two on their workforce. But I often argue that it runs the risk of just becoming a token. We have filled that little obligation.
The same thing with DEI. I mean, they're under the DEI anyway, inclusion. To have anybody to perform and give you feedback, and you need to give them a sense of belonging.
Sure, of course.
I don't think the disabled community feels there's a sense of belonging unless they work for an institution that is meant only for disabled individuals. Then they perform. But to have a disabled individual working within an environment that is traditional, as we call it, environment where there are probably none other races too, or gender kind of environment, or race kind of environment, they wouldn't feel welcome. So the sense of belonging, that's generated mostly by a mindful leader that is compassionate. Because regardless of what category we're talking about, if it was a gender, if it was a race, if it was an age, we have the age now, as people get older, they are forced out. But we go back to the main thing, which is to create a society that is civil. And I don't think now we live in a civil society, a society that we can say, well, we are civil, meaning understand each other, it's an understanding for the others, to help them regardless of who they are. They made some exceptions here and there. Like an example, in LA, we have a drive to remove some of the homeless that have been on the streets for ages. Wow. This is an attempt. This is a civil approach to it, right? Or people coming from across the other countries, refugees, and seeking a better life. There's an attempt to it. But there are people in society that would refuse this because the status quo is going to be changed. I'm going to do another.
Trust is big in there in terms of that idea of handshake and creating trust. If trust isn't there, there's an uncertainty, an underlying uncertainty that detracts from the power of compassion and care.
Trust is everything. Trust is earned, by the way. Trust is everything because when you shake hands with someone, you're touching them. Let's say if it was a physical shake hands. I mean, I'm taking it literally. I used to, in the old days, as you know, you said a small business owner. In the old days, when I want to invite someone, I write them a welcome letter. I say, dear so and so, I hope this letter will in this letter kind of shake your hand as a welcome, so I kind of use the word handshake in my early marketing. So when you attempt to shake hand with someone, you're building with sincerity.
Yes.
You're building a connection. You're welcoming this individual. You say, welcome to my home, welcome to my show, welcome to my school, welcome to this. So the first thing is welcome, but this welcome has a limit. It continues when you create an environment that is based on trust.
Sure.
That when I come inside your environment, this individual is not going to betray me, or I betray you. Is gonna do things that the environment is welcoming and inspiring and uplifting, and also is going to add value to me as I add value to you.
Sure.
Because it's a mutual thing, and your choice of having the podcast as Handshake is a good choice.
Yes.
Because it's an excellent choice. You are making the connection. You're making the connection beyond the welcome, beyond the welcome, and hopefully a lasting connection, because hopefully people will learn. I mean, even if I say a word and they learn from it, I'm happy with that. So you're bringing good value to your audience and to our society.
So I know the last time we spoke a lot about AI, and since we last spoke, AI has gathered such speed and momentum.
Yes.
And I argue that the handshake is irreplaceable. Would you agree?
I agree. Now, we talked about the early, like a few years back. So we were talking about the future of AI, right? And I kind of recommend your audience to go to these moments of time where we talked about the future of AI. And we said it has the potential, an amazing potential, to make the difference of everything we do. Sure. And it has proved that. AI is a machine. AI will never have empathy. It's used today to kill people. It's used today to make people healthy. It's used to do a miracle. So it depends how you use it. It doesn't have an independent mind, and it will never have empathy because it's a machine. You can teach it to be kind and stuff, but will never have it because this is an innate biological thing within us.
Sure.
So yes, it does, but it will never have any human elements to it. Even they can dress it with a human form. It's a machine that you can program it in any way you can talk. And any talk about now that it's going to take its own form later on and be smarter than man.
Super intelligence, yeah.
Super intelligence. It may be super intelligent but it would not be more intelligent than the man who created, or the people who created it, male or female. Man, when I say man, I mean both. The people who created it. No, it's empathy that really matters, connectivity that really matters, inclusivity that really matters. Those AI would not be able to. It can do a lot of things, potentially amazing, and still we haven't probably seen everything of what it can do.
Not at all.
Uh,
No.
yeah, so probably in this early stages, but uh, it can never replace the human touch.
Mhm.
This you can feel welcome sometime when you talk to AI. You talk to Siri, try to talk to Siri, or talk
Mhm.
to ChatGPT, and the amazing connection that you may have. You may feel connection. You can manipulate it by saying you're sweet, you're smart. I try to
Sure.
play with that, and to reply, "Thank you, you're so sweet." You know,
Yes.
those kind of things. Or you say something to Siri, Siri, you're a bad girl today. Oh, that's not nice. Don't say that. You know,
I
those
know. Yeah,
those
absolutely.
those kind of things. These emotions are programmed emotions.
Of course.
Yeah, they're not
Mhm.
self-generating.
Mhm.
So no, it will never be able to do anything. Humans touch and abilities to make a difference
Mhm. Do you
with
think?
the use of AI. AI is meant to complement, not to replace. You may
Yeah.
not replace a human being. You may complement him with the use of AI, regardless of what skills at that level is.
And do you see it making life easier for disabled people in the workplace?
Yes,
Mm,
yes. We call that assistive technology. So
sure.
now our assistive technologies, in the old days, mechanical technologies, if you wanted to, somebody's paralyzed. If you want to go from one place to another, you use a wheelchair and you
Sure.
have the rams and you move them around. Later on, assistive technologies, let's say I need glasses, I'm visually challenged, assuming I can have some assistive technology by someone talking to me, right?
Yeah.
That's the
Of
old
course.
days.
Of course.
Hearing
Yes.
impaired, this
Mm,
assistive
mm,
technology for the deaf or hearing impaired. With AI now and what they can do, it can enhance all the assistive technologies or even come in with the new technologies altogether.
of course. Yeah. Absolutely.
So yes, it will help. Absolutely, it will help, and it's needed. And I hope people listening to this, and I'm sure people in the industry doing this, try to use AI, especially developers that do these kind of assistive
Mhm.
technologies. Try to see how to use AI to enhance
Mhm.
uh, all genre of disabled individuals, because they very much need that, and it will be
So
helpful to them.
the education of the leader in how to optimize the use of AI in the workplace is very important, isn't it?
It is. I mean, when you have a leader that is aware, he's not only aware of the people, he's aware of the technologies,
Mhm.
what's happening. And AI is a technology. I mean, we like it or not, true, it mimic the
Mhm.
behavior of man, writing and otherwise,
Mhm.
but it's a machine.
Mhm. Of course.
I don't know. I told you, probably I didn't tell you because at that time I did this a few years back, 2000 and so 21 or so. I took a special course, a special program with MIT, Great
Mhm.
Learning. That course, remember we talked self-compassion,
That's right.
improve.
Yes.
I don't want to just talk about AI without knowledge. So I went to the highest that is offering such thing. I went to a MIT a school or program, 9 courses. 9 courses. You start with introduction to the language, how to
Mhm.
develop language. Then you go to statistics, and then you go to basically the project. Each project, you forecast what's going to happen to any environment, to any organizations. You put some
Mhm.
data, you use the coding, and then it gives you, it's going to succeed, it's going to have a business
Mhm.
viable to produce enough income or revenue to the, but one of it is deep learning and deals with AI.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, so it deals with AI, and I read about it from really from the theory how it developed. You can even in the program You can even develop the language. So what I wanted to tell you, the reason I'm bringing this in, this is just an application.
Sure.
It's an application. It's a machine-based, it's machine learning in data science program. And it's an application you would use, a software developed, and then you teach it what to do.
Yes. It's to keep it in perspective, And one thing that I'm curious about is the effect of screen dependence or dependence on programs like ChatGPT, the effect it will have on the deep learning of our students. Will it render them lazy? And that they don't think for themselves. So they just key in the question, key in the title,
I got it.
get it out. That's where it becomes dangerous, and where where the educators need to keep a rein on it. Yes. In terms of it being the tool.
As you know, I'm a professor. I teach MBA classes, higher education. I'm specialist in the culture and organizational behavior. This is a class I teach. I love teaching. I teach theory. I teach organization. But the class I love teaching is societies and culture and attitude and personalities and decision making. I kind of witnessed some of my students before and after, meaning when they use the language, the ChatGPT, or even other services like other writers, they would write their work. So I made it a policy. I said, compliment. I said to them, I know you can write it. They can give you whatever it is, and nobody there but you. But consider our interaction. This is a learning environment. I'm not going to punish you for bad thoughts or not writing well. I'm not because I'm compassionate. My intention is to uplift you and guide you and make sure you learn. Please make the mistakes now so I can guide you through it. Instead of, because you can deceive me when you write something. I'm not going to judge you and say you didn't do it.
Sure.
But please do not do it, because if you do, you're not going to benefit yourself. You're not going to learn. Because my job is to facilitate the program. And if there is a little bit of writing I can improve, an idea I can enhance, do this. And when you do it, you respect yourself and you respect me, because you're not saying, oh, ChatGPT did everything for me. Or not only before AI now with writing, before they used to use a service from the outside, like a ghostwriter.
Oh, yes, yes.
I had one student, when they submitted to me their paperwork, it leaves a thread on who wrote it. One time they left it to me, some AKC services or something.
Yes.
I knew it was, but I didn't. What can you do? I mean, you're not going to prejudge, but you talk to them again in general. So for the students who are not in a higher education, for the students who don't have the mental abilities and capacities to understand the importance of not using ChatGPT, it's the role of the teacher. The teacher has to be transparent. Do not punish. At no time do you say, I'm going to give you an F. Your job is not to give an F. Your job is to enhance these individuals while they are in your care. Whatever age they are. Enhance their knowledge by being transparent. Tell them, I know you can do that. Please do not do it, because I want you to learn. And if there's a teacher out there listening, just practice this. Sure. That's part of being compassionate. But that's, at least if you're not that compassionate, you want to give an F, don't give an F. Give an F to somebody who doesn't do the work. Yeah, possibly, because it's the standard of. But generally, be your own leader within that environment while meeting the status quo and the environment regulations. And I'm not saying defy the institution. I'm just saying become your own leader by creating an environment that is inspiring and transforming to those individuals, students, regardless of what grade they're in. So this way they can really benefit, and you would become memorable, and they would learn. Because now that's that's a challenge. And just don't threaten them by giving them enough. say, if you do the job, I'm going to give you a grade that is satisfactory to your own needs. Because what a student needs is a grade. And when we talk about motivation, how do you motivate a student? By giving them good grade. I'm going to give you a good grade if you give me 3 pages of this with citation that are proper citations. You're going to give me, I'm going to give you some points or 2 if you do this and that within the environment you're in.
Of course, yeah.
So if that's successful, a good teacher, but it takes a teacher to work on that, a teacher that cares.
And it's to retain standards and to, I would be big into this thing of developing the child's own agency, and that they don't become maybe destroyed early by dependence on access to the like of ChatGPT, because it'll truncate their learning in many ways.
Well, just make it a point. They cannot use it. They just forbid it. Just put it part of the curriculum, part of the syllabus, part of anything else. We're talking about for those individuals that underage, they're in a position where they don't know the difference. Because if they're adults, you can talk to them. But if they are under that and they use their families, or their families use it to help them with the homework, just make it a point that you may use it to enhance, to complement, but not to replace.
Not to substitute. Yeah.
Not to substitute.
Yes.
You may use it. It's an amazing machine and language that you can communicate with. Enhance your work, but not to replace it, because you have to come up with the idea first. You have to tell me what the idea is all about. You have to tell me what you expect from it. You have to tell me, meaning as an individual. And then I will help you if you're underage to ask this machine to give me a good way of putting it together. If that's the case, it shouldn't. It should enhance them. Actually, it should make them the smarter people. But as long as they do not replace their thoughts with such suggestions or ideas, it has to come from within.
That's the real challenge I feel going forward. It's a real challenge. And we're at, the pace of change is such that the human in many ways is losing track in the workplace and in the education institutes, because change is happening so rapidly. I think it is so important to this notion of adaptability and this notion of being able to field change with confidence. That's, if you've got an anxious youth coming up and you couple that with the pace of change in a very sort of complex and confusing and ever-changing world, they run the risk of getting lost in that melee.
True. But also it depends on the leadership itself, how empowering it is. How empowering it is. And are they really worthy of being leaders? Because if you have a good environment with good leaders, they're already mindful of any changes coming up.
Yes.
So they plan it ahead of time.
Yeah, so we're back to getting the leadership right.
The right position, right people are educated enough to know what's the difference between AI and other technologies out there. And they know the potential of what AI means and how harm it can cause, which we're not saying it doesn't cause harm. It will cause harm. But in the same time, its benefits are probably equal, because whatever you use it, you can get the outcome.
So what sort of research are you doing at the moment? What are your plans at the moment for more writing or whatever?
So I'm trying to perfect some other books, probably publish them ASAP with my time. I'm amazed by a new concept in leadership. What's not necessarily new, but it never been put into place or seen it before our eyes, which is flexible leadership.
Right.
Flexible leadership. If you have a flexible leadership and you have a might that comes to attack you, the organization or otherwise, even if you let the whole leadership go, if you have a flexible leadership, they will overcome.
Yes.
They will overcome. they will regenerate because it's based on resiliency, based on some of the characters is the empowerment. You give empowerment to these individual horizontal,
Sure.
and they build and they build and they build and they build, and they can perform and they can attack again, or they can perform better, or they can. So I'm very amazed by. Wrote an article on it. I put it on my website, and we talk about adaptability, how to be able to adapt regardless of what the challenge is, economical, military, or technological.
Sure.
How they come attacking you and you're not aware of what's happening. If you have a hierarchical, like a vertical leadership, you're going to collapse and you're going to be out. But if you have a horizontal leadership, that's going to be your way to overcome anything.
Yeah. So it's, we speak a lot here about being a reflective practitioner, but this notion of being a reflexive practitioner is important. It aligns with that somewhat, doesn't it? Being able to change to the demands of situations.
Absolutely, adaptability, but being reflective, and this one has to be done on a regular basis, daily basis, even nightly basis. When you talk about being mindful, you're not going to get everything being mindful now. You reflect, you get feedback, because you have limitation to what you can absorb. But when you have 10 to 15 minutes, this is we're talking about reflection in general, 5 to 10 minutes, even half an hour, whatever it is, prayer or otherwise, and you talk about like within who you met, how you talked to about, was it a meeting, how did it go well or not, what made it go well, what didn't make it go well. Did you cause any pain to the next of kin environment? Do you care for your elderly? Did they check on this? If you do reflection like this builds on your being mindful.
Of course.
And if you are within the leadership, if you reflect on it, it's going to cause you, if you fail vertically, probably it's about time we give power to these people within the horizontal level. That's a flexible leadership, is to give. We're not saying it has to be only horizontal. It could be back and forth, but you cannot have an order coming from on top, and you have to do what I want to do, like military. If you're in a military and you are faced with a powerful force, you'll fail, because the people who are underneath you, they're not empowered and they don't know what the decision is. They don't know how to behave. They're not taking things on their own. They're going to be punished later. Say, who asked you to do this? But if you have horizontal with empowerment, every one of them, like every unit, every group, every team, they can make their own decisions based on the overall objectives of the company.
So it sort of resonates with the notion of becoming a leader of leaders, isn't it?
It makes you a leader.
Yes.
It makes you a leader within leaders.
Yeah, absolutely.
Among leaders. It's very powerful. That's what I'm researching now. I don't know if I'm going to write a book on it. I think few articles would be enough. But I discovered that for you. I mean, I discovered the concept to be a research a few weeks ago. I'm very fascinated by it.
Very good.
But probably it's there. I don't know. But you remember before I say, just be flexible, just relax. Remember, I tell you, hey, that's okay. Who cares? Just be flexible. So the concept, I think, from there. But I don't know if it's ever been actually tested. Probably it has.
I wrote an article recently about contextualized leadership. And the contexts are changing so much here in Ireland. I mean, the diversity within one lecture hall, within one classroom, is such that you have to change your style of leadership. You have to change in line with the emerging demands.
And you have to adapt.
Yeah, you have to adapt. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So here, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed speaking with you, and I'll have you back again if you will come at some stage down the line as the handshake evolves. And let's keep in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be with you all the time. And I'm going to shake your hand. Let's shake your hands.
Shake hands. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Keep safe, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Keep the good things you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.